Hey everyone, happy Wednesday here with Kari the Mortician to answer questions live with viewers. I do take questions that have come in over the last week as well that people email me and send me in all sorts of forms. So I like to answer those questions also. So diving in on some questions. A niece is now retired after having worked as a nurse for 35 years in a state mental hospital here in Pennsylvania. She has long said that the easiest, quickest way for her to tell that a patient on his or her back was about to expire was that the person's ears would lie flat against his or her head. Is this a valid sign of impending death? I have never heard of this. People's ears, when I get them, look normal, I guess, in all different angular aspects, lanes. So I'm not quite sure how they would lie back flat against their head. I don't know what would change that because it's all cartilage. There's no muscle. There's no action that you really control for the most part in your ear. So it's interesting to look into. I'll have to see. Nurses, there's a lot of nurses watch this. Have any of you seen this before someone's died, or hospice workers or anyone? Has anybody noticed that ears go flat against the person's head before somebody dies? See what feedback we get. Hey, and welcome everyone. I love when you guys tell me where you're from, I love that it's all over, like Kentucky and Scotland. And hey, Robert, welcome. Nice to see you. Texas and all over the place. I don't have coffee this afternoon, so I'm kind of breaking the rule of what my name on my video is, Coffee with Kari. But how long does the embalming last? What do you mean last? Like how long does it take to embalm? Manchester, UK. I just love the UK so much. I can't even. It's Pennsylvania, London, Alabama, South Carolina, West Virginia, Ohio. Woo! Mansfield, Ohio. I want to come down and go to the big penitentiary there. Have you ever gone? Like, ooh, Kristen, I really want to come and go. I think that sounds so fun. Given the effort required to prepare and present a typical dead body, what special steps must be taken to prepare a body to be viewed astride his motorcycle? So asking about the extreme embalming, I don't know. It's such a big secret of the people that do it. My guess, if somebody tasked me with that, there would be a lot of wire, and I would have to build a structural system maybe under the person's clothing to make sure they were held in place. So wire and piping and tubes and zip strips, or not zip strips, is that what they are? The like little, I'm totally blank right now. Yeah, zip ties. What's the best way to get your foot in the door in a mortuary? I can't roll yet at a school. Go visit every funeral home within an hour of you and tell them you're interested in school, you're getting ready to apply, you would love to do a part-time position or a full-time position, or see what they may have available, see if you can shadow, anything. Just get the word out, talk to people, check at cemeteries or crematories. You know, any position within that whole death care world can connect you to another position that might be more along the lines of what you're looking for, but you've got to get out there and get your foot in the door. Hey, Belle Star. Was it Bella or just Belle? I love it. Welcome. Any YouTube collaborations coming up? We'd love to see some more of those. I do. This week's video, I think it's posting Friday or Saturday, is with a Beer with the Boys video with Ryan and Brian from Undertaking the Podcast. And it's one I'm really excited about because it kind of taps into some of my quirky passions that I have. So catch that coming this weekend. Hey, JW. Everybody from, yes, Sarah, that is we should road trip and do that. That would be fun. How does it keep the body in living state? Kathy, there's no answer. There is none. There's too many variables when it comes to embalming and death and decomposition. There's no given amount of time that's a set and certain that somebody will be perfectly preserved for. Were you ever nervous or antsy about going into your field of work, working with deceased people? I don't know that I was really antsy going in and working with the deceased. I think some of it was perception, or how would people perceive me, and what was the work schedule like? I don't think the deceased part ever was a question for me. It was so normal and so commonplace that I felt so natural when I was working at the funeral home. So I guess that part was never a question. How do you take the body home to do a home funeral? Well, the funeral home can bring them to your home. You can go pick them up and bring them to your home. It just depends on what kind of situation, what equipment you may need. So every situation is going to be a little bit different. Don't be afraid of the deceased people. It's the live ones to be afraid of. I say it all the time because dead people aren't breaking into the funeral home to steal stuff with weapons, and they're not coming in to like rape me and murder me. It's the living. So I'm a little more afraid of them, a lot more afraid of them, because the deceased are just there and peaceful. My dad died 3 days ago and was cremated. I was there to witness. They let me help push him in and allowed me to push the button to start the machine. Is this the norm? Annette, I'm so sorry that you've had to walk this walk the last few days. That's heartbreaking, truly. But I love that you were very hands-on. It is not abnormal, but it's definitely not common. It's funny because I'll ask people when I'm meeting with them, do you want to be there? And they'll say, do people actually do that sometimes? And I'm like, yeah. So I think we have one right now at one of the funeral homes I'm covering in, and the family's going to wait until it's completely done and take the individual home with them afterwards, the cremated remains. So it's just comfort level of the family, and sometimes it's religious preference as well. Dylan, you need some positive. What positive do you need? I'm sending it all to you. We'll all send you our positive mojo right now. That's good. Fill you up. I was mowing a few minutes ago and thought of a question for you. Have you ever heard the phrase, they always die in 3? It is so true. And I see it all the time, where I will see a family 3 times in a 1 or 2 year period, or within a couple weeks period, where you see like a brother and a sister and a niece or a nephew or whatever the configuration, that you see 3 die within a certain period of time. Who knows how long that extended period of time, if it's within 5 years or if it's within 3-4 years, but I see it a lot, where it's 3 people. Not that they all die together or something, but you see multiple deaths within a limited, family structure. It does happen often. Have you ever prepared an unembalmed body for a viewing? Yes, many. We do a lot of ID viewings before direct cremation or before cremation or before an immediate burial. And so we get them ready, and sometimes that means dressing, casketing, makeup, hair, everything. When I see 2-3 names on one square in a mausoleum, does that mean those people are cremated? It only looks big enough for one casket. They'll be double length or triple length or stacked within that unit. So it does not always mean they're cremated. It may mean one person might be cremated in there, but it doesn't mean they're all cremated. There's a lot more space in there than you think. Should you let small children attend funeral? 100% of the time, yes. No question. Lots of useful information about funeral home at the National Home Funeral Alliance. Yes, there is, Richard. Great information there. Has anything ever scared you in the field? Do you believe in ghosts? Yes, I believe in paranormal, unexplained events, unexplained sightings, things. I do believe in that, just because there's things that have happened I can't explain. I don't know if ever scared you in the field. I don't know if anything's ever really terrified me. I have moments where I think my imagination gets the better of me, maybe. Oh, Dylan, that sucks. You've got COVID and are quarantined down. I'm so sorry. It sucks bad. Has a deceased body ever sat up on you? No, it is not physically possible for a deceased person to sit up. If you choose not to be embalmed, do you still have to have features set? No, you don't have to. If you're going to be viewed, though, we will close eyes. We will make sure the mouth is closed. If it's not already set and locked in a closed position, we will suture and make sure the mouth and the eyes are closed. So not everyone has to have eye caps in if they're going to have an ID viewing or their mouth sutured. It just depends on how they look. Hey, over. in North Wales. What's the strangest request you've ever had? This is one I really don't answer because I don't know what is strange to everybody else. Things that I see and do are become more commonplace than maybe what you see and do. A greater question is like, have you ever seen this, or has this ever happened? Would probably be an easier question to answer. Do you believe in the afterlife? Do you feel the spirit of the person you work with? I do not ever feel a spirit, ever. Any presence from the person that's there, ever. I believe that these people, that the spirit leaves you and goes somewhere else. I believe in heaven. I believe that there's something beyond. Do you know of any places in Massachusetts, museums, mortuary type oddity or information on things can visit? Not in Massachusetts, unless you go down like the Salem witch trial thing. But that's, you know, in Salem, which is near. You know, that's, I'm thinking Boston, I'm sorry. But yeah, so like Salem would be the witch trial stuff, that's kind of death stuff, but no funeral. There is in Pennsylvania, there's a big museum of funeral stuff and death stuff. How do you deal with maggots? So we try and remove them if the person themselves is not too far gone, I guess you would say, then we try and remove them. We kill them. There's chemicals that are from distributors that we work with. There's one called Stop, basic Stop, gasoline, kerosene, anything like that, just on a Q-tip, and it'll kill them and get them right out of there. So they are detrimental to the funeral home and any deceased that are there. So we want to get them out as quick as we can. When did they start using a half couch and why? I honestly don't know the history of the half couch and why it kind of started. A lot of like what I looked at, even like why are people laid to the left and the right? I couldn't find the historical to it when I've researched. You know, some of what you read is people, if they were good in life, they were laid to one way, and if they were bad in life, they were laid to another, like criminals and, you know, common folk. It's hard. My cousin died a couple weeks ago from a suspected OD. She looked nothing like herself. Everyone thought it was the wrong body. Can you tell me why she was so dark and swollen? She was not autopsied. Had she laid for a while? Had she been dead for a bit before someone found her? Russell? Do I prefer to aspirate while embalming or wait until the view service? That's such a good question. It is a huge debate within the funeral profession, within embalming. Some embalmers will wait until the next morning. So they'll inject the fluid, they'll let the body set, and as they say, they're letting this fluid do its job because it soaks into the tissue. If you aspirate right away, the thinking is that you're going to break up that vasculature within the whole cavity and that fluid's going to come back out. However, my thinking is that the fluid that comes out, you're just replacing by poking a hole and putting the cavity fluid back in. So you're still getting all the same benefits. My theory also is that bacteria is in the gut and in the cavity, and that is what decomposes a body most quickly. And I want to get rid of that. So I aspirate when I embalm. Sometimes people do it just out of time where they're like, well, I'll just do it in the morning. You know, they do the main part and then they come back and do the aspiration later for time. It just depends. But I'm right away, just get it done and do it. I think there's value in that. Sometimes I listen to music when I embalm. It just depends. Sometimes I'm just so focused on getting done and leaving that I don't even turn music on. Sometimes I will though. I like to listen to worship, like praise music sometimes. Sometimes it's dance, like shake your booty music kind of stuff. There's certain music I just won't listen to probably. Hey, Joshua Moon, hiya. There's certain music, like I'm not going to listen to like gangster rap with a whole lot of obscenities and stuff. Is that okay to say gangster rap? Like, you guys know what I mean. Things that have just a lot of obscenities, things that I wouldn't want to play around just other people in general. I'm not going to play in front of a deceased, even though they can't hear. Like some states have laws, you can't curse around deceased. So I'm going to monitor some of what I'm playing, even though it's just me listening, if that makes sense too. I have a purge question, Robert says. Do bodies have purge issues if they have had an autopsy? I imagine leakage. Correct. You're exactly correct. There's nothing to purge. There's nowhere to purge from because there's nothing connected to the nose and the mouth anymore. If you have any issues, it's going to be leaking from any of the incisions, from anywhere that leaking can come out of. And there's a lot of openings when it comes to an autopsied individual. Have you ever had someone that was declared dead that was still alive? No. I know this happens once in a great while, but I don't know anyone that's ever even happened to. What's my best memory of my job so far? Ooh, it's big. I think some of my firsts are always going to be my favorites. My first time taking care of a child and working with the family and like helping them have a good moment out of this sorrow. Those are good. Just working with some of the people I've worked with are just some of the most amazing individuals, their lives and what they've done and immigrating and, overcoming and maybe raising a family of 10 kids all on your own because your husband died in a farm accident when he was young and you raised 10 kids and you went back to school. And like those people and their stories are so lost over time. And I get to hear them. And that's so cool that I get to still like look at this person with so much admiration and I didn't even know them and I get to meet them. So some of those moments truly are the best that I get to do those things and learn about people. Why do people change once they pass away? I was with my mom-in-law when she passed away and she looks so different afterwards. It just depends. Like if someone is in a death process, they may look angst or pained and then they look relieved after as all the muscles and everything relax. Coloring can change right away as well. You may look really mottled and then you get an overall kind of one-toned color, or there's a lot of different ways. I guess it depends on how she looked different. Is it common to have a fear of being dead when you're not really dead? I have this fear. How do they make sure you're dead? I'm going to be cremated. Most states have a waiting period, so you're going to be around for a few hours before you actually go to be cremated. So that helps. Yeah, it's a very common fear. I was up last night. No crazy. I was up for like an hour or two, just laying awake, anxiety ridden over dying. And it just happens. It doesn't matter if you work around death or anything. It just still can overtake you if you let it just get in your brain and think about it. Death is one of those things, like it's going to happen to all of us. And if you spend your life worrying about it, then it will have won when we're alive. Death is going to win at some point. So don't let it take away your moments while you're here, because it can just ruin your moments with family while you're here. So, try and push it away, try and get it out of your mind. Do you have experience using glutaraldehyde? If so, what's your preference between glutaraldehyde and formaldehyde? I have. So there is a chemical, so Champion Chemical Company has high form and dye form. And I like using the glutaraldehyde base. However, you have to know what you're using going in. So formaldehyde, when you inject the fluid, the person firms up pretty quickly. You can tell where the fluid's getting by, feeling the skin tone, and the skin is going to get firmer and firmer, like feeling the nose here and feeling the skin here. You can tell that they're firming up. Glutaraldehyde does not do that. They don't firm up. You'll come back the next morning and they'll be firm, or a couple hours later and they'll have firmed up. So I embalmed with a guy once. I came in the room and he's like, I don't know what's going on. I've put like 6 bottles of fluid in them and the guy's still not firming up. And I'm like, what are you using? And he's like, the glutaraldehyde. And I'm like, oh. So he didn't know the reaction of what the fluid would be doing to the deceased. So when the gentleman did firm a few hours later, he was like really firm. So you've got to know the reaction of what the chemicals are that you're working with. And sometimes when you go to this alternative chemical, it doesn't always work best for you. Another mortician said the organs of the deceased person are placed in a box at the foot of the casket, not placed inside the person after embalming. Is this the norm? So that's going to be only for autopsied individuals that the organs are taken out, and it is not by the embalmer. It's by the pathologist, the medical examiner. So they're returned in a bag that's in the cavity, and then that's taken out, treated, and it should be placed back in the cavity. It doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes they place it in the foot of the casket. Some places throw it out, which is illegal. It's not okay. It does happen, but you're supposed to put it back in the individual. What is the most common household item that is used in the prep room that may be surprised, like super glue? We do use super glue. Household sponges, a lot of sponges. That's what we wash the deceased with, is like a sponge. Like a regular everyday sponge. I'm trying to think what's in the prep room. You know, bleach, chemicals, certain chemicals you may use. Let me think on that. If there's any things that we use in there. Any tricks for embalming jaundice cases? The milk question. I think somebody asked me that like 2 or 3 weeks ago. There's this milk thing that everybody says, use a gallon of milk and run that through the individual. When I say run that through the individual, you put it in the embalming machine and circulate the gallon of milk through the individual's system before you put in the chemical. No idea why people do this or if it ever worked. I'm never going to try it because to me that seems weird. And like I'm going to get sour. I just feel like there would be a smell after. I don't know. I will do a pre-injection if I think it's going to work, and then use some specialty chemicals, let it dye. It's easier to cover pink than it is to cover yellow. So dye is going to pinken up that tissue and pinken up the skin. And it depends on jaundice. If it's set in and they're really stained, if the person's eyeballs are yellow, then you have an uphill battle when it comes to the jaundice. Why do some people have a frown in their casket? It's a natural look of a deceased in some cases. So we are used to watching mouths moving, them in maybe a pleasant, try to present in a present way. But just think of all the people that have resting face. That's just their natural look. That's how they're going to look in a casket. A smile is a forced muscle response to you making a smile. A smile is not really a natural look for individuals. So your natural line is going to be followed. Sometimes the gravity works harder and the mouth is not placed quite correctly. So you're going to have more of a frown or more of a pulled out effect on the face. So it really just depends. Thank you, Allegro Grub. That's really nice. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, today this is a I'm not doing my hair style is what this is. So we just pull it back, and as you can see, it's all crazy. Oh yeah, funerals are completely different today, Kathy, because of COVID restrictions. It definitely changes everything we're doing right now. How can a regular funeral home help to do at-home funerals? Are there any special laws around them? Not really. You can take home your loved one anytime you want. They're yours. So, the funeral home can help with, if you want them in the casket, they'll get them in the casket. If you need something for them to set on, like the church truck and stuff, they can bring the equipment to the home. If you need a cooling table, if they're unembalmed, they can help with that. So they can help with all the different pieces and parts. A funeral home just may not be as versed at doing that, but it doesn't mean they can't help you do that. I've heard of human funeral homes performing pet funerals. What are the laws surrounding this, and what should pet owners know about this process? There's not really laws. Embalming, though, we talked about this, I think, last week. I mean, I need to find these answers about embalming pets. So we'll come back to pets and funeral homes and embalming and everything for you guys. The idea of more environmentally friendly funeral options is becoming more prevalent. How do these services affect the future of the regular funeral industry? Will it be combined, or will one supersede the other? I think that that environmentally, it just depends. Okay, so cremation is not environmentally friendly. It uses the same environmental footprint as burial does. Even burying natural burial, you're still using ground space. So all these options have the same footprint, whether they're embalming or not embalming, you're still using a grave space somewhere. So it just depends on your version of environmentally friendly that you're thinking of doing, because they're not, most cemeteries, they're not reusing a grave space once you have, turned back into the earth. They're not going to reuse your space. So you're still taking up ground space. So it just depends. There's some options that are way more environmentally friendly and, better for the environment and stuff than others, but I don't think it's ever going to completely take over out of necessity. I think we're going to have to change some of what we do and have some more options. And that's why, composting is coming around and water cremation and all these other options are coming up. So it's not going to just be cremation and burial as your disposition choices. I think we're going to keep growing, that we're going to have more options available for people as more requests come about that people want more options. So I think that is where some of that's going to come into play. And someone asked me about companies or organizations that they can register with for organ, tissue, body donation. They also asked me if the person is donated, does the organization cremate or the family? The organization cremates. They handle all of that. There are companies, there's nationwide companies that will take donated individuals for like medical research or whatever they're doing, or full body donation, and they will pay the family some money. But my main thing I'm going to tell you is do your research. Research these companies. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. Some of those companies are the ones that have been busted by the FBI for body stealing and body part selling, and they find what's left over the bodies and storage units and things. So like those bad things do happen. So if you're going to send your mom across the country to Oklahoma or wherever, not deeming Oklahoma has bad body donation, but across the country to somewhere so you can make a little money off of her donating rather than you paying, make sure she's going somewhere that's safe and that's taking well care of her and that is reputable, that doesn't have an FBI profile on them. Just check into what you're doing. Do your research and know, because there are definitely bad places. What are your thoughts on the caskets sold by Walmart and their website? I mean, they're caskets just like everybody else sells. I just can't promise that it's arriving in good condition, on time, and everything. So I am fine with anybody buying things from anywhere. I just can't put my, my name behind what you're doing and say, oh, this casket's going to be great if I haven't seen that casket or I haven't worked with that company and I don't know for sure. So I'm fine with anything that people want to buy and bring in or whatnot. It's completely fine, but I just can't ensure it's going to be there on time, undamaged, and okay. So that's the only things I'm concerned about, is that there's not another speed bump in the road for a family during that process, because instead of using the company we know and we deal with and we like back up, we're dealing with other companies for different things. So those are the only things that concern me with it. Do I think my kids are going into the industry? I really don't know if they will or not. They ask me a lot of questions. They understand why I do things. It resonates with them. They're still little, so I don't know how much will stick with them over time. We'll see. Well, so yeah, we could all hear my daughter knocking on the door, insistent. They're usually pretty good if I have to pop in here to do a video, but today, yeah, the house is not on fire. No worries. Oh my goodness. How do you embalm a body with burning injuries on the face? Can you reconstruct it, or will it have to be? It really depends on how deep the burn goes into the tissue. It depends on the skill level of the embalmer as well. If you get all the tissue off and you just have the skeleton, can you rebuild up with wax? Yes, if you have the skill level to do that, because at that point, it's like art. I am not an artist. I don't know that I could build a whole face from just the skull. You see forensic anthropologists do that, and you use pencil erasers for your tissue depth, and then you build on top of that, and I don't have that artistic vision. I can definitely do some reconstructing when I have what I need there, but I don't know if I could build a whole face off of just a skeleton. That seems like beyond amazing to be able to do that. No, Drew, I have never seen a cemetery with anything busted open and a body stolen. That would, what would you even do with that body? That's crazy. Yeah, I don't know what you would even steal a body for. Okay, Kristen says, I tried to move my brother's hands in the casket and he was rock solid. That's embalming. He was preserved and he firmed up greatly. So that's why he was in one position. Why do fingertips look black sometimes? Because they've had oxygen deprived from them and they're deteriorating and they turn black very quickly. With cremation jewelry, can you put both parents in the piece? Sure. You're just a few grains of each person is all you can fit in jewelry. There's barely anything of an individual in cremation jewelry. It's maybe enough to fit on your fingernail, if that. It's very, very small, but you could put a little piece of each in there, definitely. Sometimes when I'm in a mausoleum, I see fluid leaking out. So if that happens, then you just report it to the cemetery. If they can clean it up from the outside, they will, or you might have to take off the front piece or recasket eventually. So it's kind of this whole process that you may have to go through, but it just depends. The cemetery where I work had a guy's head stolen out of a mausoleum. Why did they do that, Tiffany? What was the purpose? You totally need to tell me that it was stolen so they could pop the teeth out and that the gold fillings out to sell for money. Okay, guys, gold fillings do not benefit you financially. There is such minimal amount of money in gold fillings. So if anybody comes to the funeral home and says, hey, Kari, we want to get out mom's gold teeth. Okay, good. You're going to need to pay a dentist privately to come in to take those teeth out and then take that gold and turn it in for money. So by the time you pay the dentist and then you turn that in for money, you probably are going to owe them, the doctors or the dentist, still money, or you're going to have made $4. It just financially doesn't benefit anybody to do that. So to break into a mausoleum to steal a head for gold fillings, come on, guys, there's not that much gold in a filling. There's not. Yeah, so I'll answer this last question. Kathy's asking, years ago, a family used to hire moaners to moan at the funeral. It's called professional, grievers or wailers, they're called. Some cultures, this is still a very big thing, that you bring in hired wailers to make a huge show and wail at the funeral to show that this person is missed and loved. So it was kind of a thing that you just did. And it still happens in America too, once in a while, that just people go over the top because that's what they do. But people used to hire folks to come and grieve and mourn, professional mourners, to mourn at the funeral so that the person, everybody attending, thought the person was more loved and more missed by this outpouring of emotion and, somebody going, you know, crazy in the back. And I'm talking, some of these people were very, very loud and boisterous and over the top with their emotion. So some of that is just, I feel like I might giggle a little if I saw somebody going way too over the top and I knew it was pretty fake and kind of putting on a show. It might be a little humorous to me. Drew, Mom, I need batteries. Not this time. Mom, can I watch a certain TV show is what that was. Man, you guys are asking a bunch of good questions. My brother wanted to be stuffed and dressed like taxidermy. Is that possible? It's really not feasible because of how tissue is. Family that asks you to embalm a loved one who died while pregnant and the family wants the fetus to remain in the womb when the time comes for you to use a trocar, how do you do it? You just, I mean, truly, the uterus really needs to, and the embryo and everything need to be embalmed. The only way we can do that is using the trocar. It's the worst thought possible. We try not to hit the baby itself. We can feel a little bit. We press with our hand and try and avoid hitting. But what will decompose in that person first is that uterus, that womb, that baby. And so we have to make sure it is preserved in there. The only way we can do that is by getting fluid in and to do the preserving. So it's horrible, worst thing ever, but you do have to get in to do that. So, all right. End of the day. Dylan, stay positive. 14 days will go fast. I promise you, you'll make it through. Thank you guys. Yeah, no wine, coffee, anything today. I don't want to chug my water. I drink out of a 40-ounce bottle. So I don't want to like be obscene with my water today. So next time we'll have some coffee or something and catch up. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for all you do. Make sure to drop your questions. Subscribe if you're not subscribed so you can check the next great videos. A video coming this weekend from A Beer with the Boys about, I'm not even going to tell you. It'll be a surprise. Bye, guys.